I think Labour has very deep problems with the messages, with the audience it addresses. I think the kind of turning against Tony Blair and New Labour was just crazy. The first step is to have a credible leader, someone who can communicate messages that have resonance with a wide range of the British public, and we haven't had that for quite some time, and so Labour has to get it right this time. You know, there's only one criterion that matters, and that is, are they capable of winning an election? That's the test, and if they're not, then they shouldn't even bother standing.
Well, I think, first of all, Brian Wilson made a very good point during the session earlier, where he said that people had got to the idea that coalitions were becoming normal. Well, they're not. He's right. Nobody votes for a coalition. First past the post does not naturally create coalitions. Secondly, where does the Labour Party go? Well, I think the Labour Party's got a lot of very hard thinking to do.
The SNP have a huge decision to make before the Scottish elections, which is whether to put a second referendum into the manifesto. If they do, then they face the possibility of doing less well in the Holyrood elections than they otherwise would. And of course, it is then a kind of winner-take-all referendum, because they can't really go back and have a third one very, very soon. So it is a very big decision for them to take. I think its impact in Westminster will be less than predicted. I think they probably wanted a Tory government, but they wanted one they would have had some leverage over, and they don't.
Well, firstly, I think that the majority, small though it is, has put a spring back in the Conservative step. I feel that they were feeling a bit sort of battered before. They didn't like being in coalition with the Liberal Democrats, although the point was made earlier that actually it's quite good to hide behind them sometimes. Yes, it was, but at the same time, the Conservatives do not naturally like sharing power. That's not what they're about. It's not what really any party's about, apart from the Liberal Democrats, who will not have power ever on their own.
Well, I was very, very intrigued by a notion that quite a few things in the Tory party manifesto were only put there in order to be give them material to negotiate away in some sort of hung parliament. So we might get we'll have to see about that. I think that the most eye-catching thing in the budget will be the decision on the London airport, actually, and Heathrow or Gatwick. In my view, Heathrow will be given the go-ahead to build a third runway, and that'll be it might be the centrepiece of the budget. I think that the city and business will dislike a European, a UK exit from Europe. It wouldn't be the end of the world, you know. We are still a big trading nation, a big economy, and if we were outside the European Union, you know, that wouldn't change. The City of London's been Europe's financial centre for the last 250 years at least. It's not going to change overnight. I think it's fair to say that David Cameron has some sort of mandate to pursue, if not EU exit, then a pretty aggressive kind of renegotiation. He might also be a little bit worried by that.
I think that the mood is definitely swinging more into an anti-European mode, but that doesn't mean that people actually want to leave the Union. I think what they actually are saying is, we want this reformed. And I think the majority of people will say, we want it reformed, which gives Cameron more power and more ability to blackmail Germany and France, for example, to say, look, you know, we might leave unless you give in here. And they know that if the UK leaves the European Union is fatally damaged.